And we are live. Welcome, everyone. It is your host, Melissa D. Hall, and we are here with another episode of Wellness Wednesday Senior Edition. And you all, today we have a great topic, okay? It is all about estate planning, wills, and trust, all right? Everybody knows a horror story of someone who did not have their affairs in order and the stress of going through probate court and trying to sort everything out. And my firm at the Hall Insurance Group, we have partnered with the incredible Ryan Polimeni to be able to offer you all wills and estate planning services. He has been in this business helping people for over a decade, and he's going to share some great advice with you all today. So make sure you are watching. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in a chat. If we have time, we may try to get to them. But as always, you can follow up with us at thehallinsurancegroup.com, and you can schedule a one-on-one. We do know that when it comes to like wills and estate plannings, it can get a little personal, right? It definitely can. So you all make sure you tune in. Okay, get your notepads out, share this with someone, because we all have to make sure we're going to get our affairs in order. Because one thing about this life thing, none of us make it out of here alive, right? Absolutely. So y'all go ahead here, and I see some of you all coming in. All right, I definitely see you all coming in. Hello there, hello there. So listen, you all, I'm going to go ahead without further ado and bring to the stage Mr. Ryan Polimeni. Hello, hello. Hi, Ryan.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Thanks so much for having me on here. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be able to share just a little bit of information about the things that I love doing, and that's it's really helping people, obviously at a very high level, doing estate plan like you mentioned now for a long time, and we all have those horror stories, but I'd love to share with a little bit of information today. I know you have some questions that people have asked, so I'll let you kind of take it from here, and then we'll dive in together.
Okay, for sure. So my first question is, what is a total estate plan? Okay, what does that mean? Because a lot of times when I think about estate plan, I just think about a will.
Sure. And a lot of people do. And it's a great question. And a little bit, just before I dive into that, a little bit about my background. I started in the financial services business 15 years ago. And one of the things that has always made me passionate about what we do is, man, oh man, seeing the horror stories like you were mentioning, right? Seeing people who thought they had a plan, but it was either an incomplete plan or just no plan, right? And thinking that everything was going to be okay. And one of the things that I've always told people when it comes to estate planning is understanding there are different levels to estate planning. And everybody's got to kind of assess what level works best for them, right? Because yes, everybody needs a complete estate plan, but everybody's estates are different. And so I think it's really important, like you had mentioned, this is one of those topics where it's such an individual basis type of thing that when we help people, it really has to be kind of on a one-on-one basis. I'm going to give a lot of kind of general information today, yes, but it's got to be more on that one-on-one basis, which is why, when we partnered, us helping you and you helping us with the ability to be able to help a lot of people has always been important. And, what is an estate plan? What are the different levels to it? Which is such a great question. And an estate plan, a lot of people think of estate plan as I have a will. Is that enough? And I got to tell you, doing this now for over a decade, the problem with just wills, and I'll give you the number one, is what's called contestability. It's when somebody thinks that they are entitled to your assets, and they're really not. I mean, I'll give you some stories as we go here. But when we talk about a holistic estate plan, think about it from kind of the top down. So an estate plan is more than just a will. A will, Melissa, it's kind of just a part of an estate plan. And for a lot of people, it's what they deem as an estate plan. It's what most people have. It's very inexpensive to set up a will. To be honest with you, what I've never been really excited about is you could write down your wishes on a piece of paper, sign it, and sometimes the court will even use that as a quote unquote will, right? But that's not something that I have always deemed a legally binding thing, even though sometimes the courts do. And the issue with just having a will is anybody can contest it. And for example, Melissa, if you pass away and all you have is a will, what's going to happen is it's going to go through this process called probate. And
Yes.
probate is when it goes to the courts make a lot of decisions on your behalf if it's not done the right way. All of your information becomes public. And
Mm,
so anybody can say, hey, wait a minute, Melissa just, someone just passed away. Bob over here just passed away. And Bob had $1.3 million of assets, right? And all of a sudden, this distant cousin that, Bob hasn't talked to in 10 years finds out that Bob's got $1 million, and guess what? Thinks he's entitled to something. What's going to happen? He is going to go potentially and say, hey, I think I'm entitled to some of that 1.3 million because we were all good friends growing up, right? I helped Bob move one day. I think I'm entitled to something.
this probably happens more than we think
All
too.
the time, and it's one of the most frustrating things that I see all the time happen when someone says, no, I'm good, I've got a will, I could just do X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
And the contestability part, Melissa, is what holds things up in court for years and years and years. Let me tell you something. With just a will, you're looking on average from anywhere from 8 months to a year and a half before your estate gets settled on average. I've seen some go 2 years. Now that's without contestability. That's without someone saying, hey, I think I'm entitled to something, right? And then it goes to court, and now you have to pay a lot of legal fees just to battle that. And so, Melissa, I saw that. I've seen that happen. I'll just give you a quick example of a will that I saw last year. One of our clients' grandmother passed away, and the grandmother estate was $1.3 million. And it took from January all the way until the following September for the estate to settle. So we're talking about literally almost a year, and then the checks weren't paid out until December. So literally 12 months for a estate to settle. Why? Well, because had to go through the entire probate process. Every single thing was made public. And I got to tell you, there was that one family member, Melissa, that everybody was petrified of because kind of that troublemaker where they thought they're entitled, and those were the things that kept holding things up longer and longer. So it's something we see all the time. So how do you fix that? Well, again, it's when you kind of take those next few steps when you're building your estate plan. And so an estate plan encompasses several things. Number one is a will that we just talked about. And again, it's not a bad thing to have a will, but there's more to it. The second thing is to have what's called a trust. And a trust is kind of think about this brick wall between you and everybody else, right? And that brick wall is one of those things that makes it very difficult for people to contest in court. So if you pass away and you have a trust, think about this. I hate to be morbid sometimes, right? But a trust is you controlling your finances and your assets from the grave. That is not the same with a will. A will just says, hey, I want this person to receive this. I want this person to receive this. But a trust takes that to a whole nother level. Let me give you a quick example. If you have children, and let's say you have minor children, you can set up a guardianship in your trust that says, hey, if I pass away and my children are minors, Melissa is going to be the guardian to my minor children. And this trust grants Melissa access to a certain amount of money every single year as a distribution of my estate to pay for the kids' school, to pay for the kids' clothes. Or if you don't have minor children, right, and let's say that your children are of adult age, 18 and above, but you have $1 million estate and you don't really trust your kids in receiving $1 million up front, right? Because what is it? You alluded to at the very beginning, that could be a huge tax problem for your children. Or guess what, Melissa? The average inheritance is gone in 18 months. 18 months.
Really?
The average inheritance is gone because a lot of people receiving these large lump sums have never come into contact with that type of money before. And if they don't have somebody like you and I helping them with their finances, a lot of people spend through it very quickly. They pay off debt, which is fine. They go out and they buy a car, they go out and buy a house, all of these things, and it blows through it very quickly. And so if you have adult children, And let's just say, I'll give you an example. Let's just say that they are in their early 20s. Melissa, you and I both know that most people in their early 20s, if they receive $1 million, they're going to blow, they're going
Yes.
to be the statistic, right?
Yes.
So a trust, one part of a trust that I love and that we see a lot of our clients utilize is they can dictate different ages of when they would like their children to receive distribution. So here's an example. Let's say that you have a child that is in their 20s. Well, you can say, hey, out of my $1 million, I want them to receive 1/3 of the distribution at age 25. And then I want them to receive another distribution, the other third, at age 30. And then I want them to receive their final distribution at 35. Well, what did you do? You spread out a potential big tax liability for your children, right? But you also controlled your finances and your assets from the grave. A will you cannot do that with. And most of them, I mean, there are some deeper wills, but like a very basic will, that's not what they're built for. So when you're talking about estate planning, that's the difference in a will versus a trust. It's one very, big difference, but there's a lot. But that's one, Melissa, that when we help a lot of our families out, that's a big part of it. And you got to remember too, how about grandparents? Grandparents want to be able to give their grandchildren part of
Yes.
their inheritance, right? But if it's not spelled out, if it doesn't say, hey, I want my grandson or my granddaughter to receive X, Y, and Z, all the money is potentially going to go to the parents. And then it's up to the parents to make those distributions to the children. And sometimes that doesn't always happen, right? Those are the type of control mechanisms inside a trust that can really help with the distribution process that we see a lot. And let me give you another example of what's inside of a trust and kind of this total estate plan. And then let's feel free to ask me questions.
Yes.
One of the big things that people overlook are things like a power of attorney.
Mm.
What's going to happen to you, Melissa, if you get sick and you can't make those healthcare decisions anymore? Who's going to make those for you? And I'll tell you, Melissa, one of the worst cases that I have seen in 10 years is a family that did not have this in place. And they had a parent that was the only survivor. So it was a mother. The father had passed away, and the mother had to go into, was in a car accident and was in a coma. And it wasn't looking good. It was approaching a vegetative state. And there was nothing, Melissa, in place to make a decision, right? The mom didn't have a trust or a power of attorney that said, hey, if I am in this state, please don't let me live on life support. Nor does she have anything that said, hey, keep me on life support. So it came down to the two children that had to make this decision, Melissa. And man, the problem was they both couldn't agree on what to do. One said, I don't want to see mom this way. The other said, we can't take this away. What if she makes it through? And guess what happened? You had this battle taking place inside the hospital. And mom lived, and eventually they had to make that really, really tough decision. But guess what it did? It started tearing the family apart.
Yes. I could see how that could happen.
Oh, and it's terrible to see. I've seen, that's one story, but I've seen it multiple times. So the powers of attorney, now that's just the durable. And then you have the financial power of attorney. What happens, right, when our moms and dads get older, or if we have our grandparents that are getting older and they're just maybe not in that mental state? I've seen people with dementia, right, that people can no longer make those financial decisions. But if you don't have a financial power of attorney, who's going to make those important decisions? Who's going to keep writing the checks to make sure the bills get paid, right? Those are really important pieces.
Ryan, you are definitely talking about something that happens a lot. You know what I mean? It happens a lot. And, how are you, Ryan, you got a construction zone going on there.
My apologies for the background noise.
You're okay. See, I guess I don't know what they're building over there. But you all, listen, are you all enjoying this? I know we all have probably experienced a lot of what he said. Go ahead and drop that down in the chat, your experiences with this in the comments. We talked about dementia last week. on here, and I couldn't imagine someone who has dementia, not having their affairs in order and kind of having to be in this situation, and then their caregiver having a battle, to try to take care of them, for sure. So Ryan, I know we have come together before, and we kind of talked about like a solution. What should people do? Because they're hearing this, and some of them may be thinking like, okay, I just have a wheel, or I don't have anything at all. Or maybe you can even speak to people who feel like they don't have anything. Should everyone have this a wheel or a trust? Like, who qualifies?
And that's a great question. And again, I do apologize for the background noise.
No, you're fine.
It's a great question. And one of the things, so Melissa, there's two ways to kind of go through this, because again, there's so much more to estate planning that I know we could spend 4 hours going through.
Yes.
But for the sake of time, I want to make sure that people understand you have two directions. Sorry, again,
No problem.
we have two directions. We have one, you can go to a estate planning attorney, and they will be able to handle this if you have somebody local. One of the things that's just kind of clear, it's going to be about 4,000. So the national average to do an estate plan at the level we're talking about, like the trust, the wills, the powers of attorney, the advanced directives, which basically says what you want. And then the most important part too is funding the trust. And Melissa, before I tell you kind of the solutions, the funding the trust is one of the most important things. And I got to tell you, it's where I see estate planning attorneys, they don't go the full distance on that because they're not going to really touch the financial piece. And that's why, Melissa, in our firm, bringing the estate planning and the financial together, that's where the real value add is. And that's why, if people decide to work with us, the first thing is we have the software that we can help people with estate plans. I know you have access to it too, which is why if you're listening to this, get on Melissa's calendar. She's the person that can help guide you through this. And our office is here to help too. We all work together, but Melissa is the person you want to talk to on this, because what she's going to be able to do is take you through our software. And what's awesome about our software is the same one the estate planning attorneys use, and we charge half the price for it.
Yes.
And that software what's beautiful about it is that it has all 50 states' laws built into it. So it doesn't matter what state you live in. If you're listening to Melissa and you live in Washington, or you live in Maryland, or you live in Virginia, we can help establish the estate plan because the software has all that. And the great thing is if you've got a question, hey, we've got the attorneys on the backside that we can ask on your behalf to save you a ton of money, so you don't have to worry about, hey, I got to pay $200 to ask an attorney a question. We handle that for you. So Melissa, we've got the software that can help. Yes. And if they want to get access, or even if they just want to see a demo, what a lot of times what we like to do is say, hey, before you go all in on the estate plan, let me take you through what the process looks like so that you're comfortable and familiar with what the experience is going to be like. Because for us, it's really about the experience. It's about the experience of what it's like to work with us, not only on the estate planning side, but one of the things that we're going to be able to do on the backside is say, hey, these are things financially maybe you haven't considered. And Melissa, what we see a lot is when we help people with the estate plan, we also try to help them get their financial affairs in order as well, absolutely. Because we want to help you do this on the most tax efficient manner. And that's a big missing piece. If they go to estate planning attorneys, they're going to set you up really nicely with an estate plan. They're going to charge you $4,000. And then you're going to have to go back to your financial advisor, or if you don't have an advisor, you're going to have to go seek out help to say, hey, I've got this. Now what do I do with my finances to get it all tied in? That's where our firm, you and I working together, that's where we come together and add the most value, because Melissa can help you out, on the estate planning, and then we can come and do the tax planning and the financial planning along with Melissa. And that's where our two firms really work hand in hand to make sure that we don't miss any piece of it.
Absolutely, which is so important, because I know that with some of my clients that I have talked to and I've helped, they said they had gone to attorneys previously and they have charged them over $5,000 for an estate plan, and they can't even update it. And I know that we're able to offer it where they can update it as often as they want to, and which is huge because things change in a person's life. And also too, since we have that financial planning piece, making sure that everything isn't taken up by taxes, because a lot of people and a lot of clients that I've seen, they try to do the right thing by setting up an estate plan or leaving their heirs something. They're so proud of it. However, they don't think about the tax implications. And because again, if you have a child that's making $90,000 and you leave them $100,000, now you've put that person now to possibly a 38% tax bracket, right? And that right there is devastating. So they end up with a lot less than if they wouldn't have had the money at all. And it's ways to structure it, with an estate plan. So it's amazing. I think everybody should do it, regardless of what level of asset.
Absolutely. I think it's something that everybody should have in place, because the last thing you want is for everything to become public knowledge. The last thing you want is for your family to be scrambling, trying to figure out, what do I do? How do I, and the smoothest transitions that I have seen is when people have this in place. Because Melissa, you got to think about this for a second. There's going to be enough emotion through grief of a loss. The last thing you want is your family to have to worry about the grief of the financial piece too, where everybody's fighting over these assets, where it's like, no, let the family grieve. And while they're grieving, make sure and understand that all these affairs are in order. Because I got to tell you, fighting on top of grief is terrible to see. I've seen it way too often. So I'm going to leave you with that, because I think that's probably the best way to stop, end here. But unless you have any more questions, feel free to ask.
No.
But I know that that's a big piece for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And listen, you all, comment in the comments below if you've ever seen that happen to a family where they fought over money when a person has passed away. I know I've seen it even in my own family. And we have people who are not speaking till this day. And it's terrible. And, you want to avoid that, right? You want to leave a legacy. So, Ryan, thank you for your time. Listen, if you all would like to speak to myself further regarding estate planning and want to work maybe with Ryan and myself, go to www.thehallinsurancegroup.com and schedule an appointment. We will be more than happy to help you, and we can schedule you right away and kind of just, gather some information and take you through the process. Again, if you all have any questions, again, please go ahead, schedule an appointment. We look forward to working with you. And Ryan, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. So I really appreciate the opportunity to work with you and to help as many people as possible. So we're here to help in any way. Let us know. Thanks for all your time today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And y'all, thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Wellness Wednesdays with Melissa D. Hall. All right, y'all. See y'all next time. Bye-bye.